Hey everyone, I'm Joe and today I'm doing a book review of High Rise by J.G. Ballard. This book was released originally in 1975. This particular edition was released in 2014 by Fourth Estate Publishers. This is a science fiction dystopian novel which is focused around the setting of the high-rise building, of the title of course. This high-rise building is a very large 40-storey building. It has 1,000 living units in it. It has 2 swimming pools, a supermarket, a barber's and several other small utility type buildings. It's basically a vertical city, and indeed that is what one of the characters in the book, I believe, calls it at one point. And it really does live up to it because it is very self-contained and it has some of the same problems that cities can have, but in a much smaller and much more focused environment, which can lead to some pretty extreme situations, let's say. The plot revolves around the main character, as such, called Robert Lang. He's one of 3 points of view you have in the book. He lives on the ground floors of the apartment building, there are 40 in total, so he's one of the sort of lower end of this society. One of the other points of view is a man on one of the middle floors, and then you have the point of view of the actual architect and designer of the building, who lives on the very top floor in the penthouse. And obviously his views are different from the other two. They all have very different views because this book is about society and also about the class system. You have the middle class at the bottom, the upper middle class in the middle, and then the upper class at the top. And frankly, this quite obvious distinction between the classes on the floors, this is what causes the problems, because at the start of the book, the apartment building is finally filled with the last tenants of the 1,000 units. And basically, various social events in the building, say parties and things, they start to bother one another within the building. You know, some of the upper floors, they tend to make noise and will knock things down stairwells, and this will annoy people on the lower floors, so they'll get quite annoyed. Tensions rise, anger flare, and frankly, insanity and violence ensues in some pretty horrific manner. And frankly, this is not a book for the light-hearted or the faint-hearted, because it's brutal, and I couldn't help thinking of A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess whilst I was reading this. It's just as brutal and just as dark, but the language and the writing is much easier, and frankly I enjoyed this more than Clockwork Orange, because in Clockwork Orange, of course, Burgess uses a lot of slang language for the characters. This is normal language, and indeed most of it is stuff we still use today. Even some of the terminology that some of the characters speak about is still pretty much valid, and you still understand pretty much everything in the book, which is a definite advantage. The high-rise building was designed and planned with the intention to eliminate all the small daily issues that neighbourhoods and small societies have. Unfortunately, that's the problem, because plans don't always mesh with reality, and in this case, yeah, they don't mix well at all. It actually reinforces, magnifies and multiplies the everyday problems of the inhabitants. The high-rise setting is used as a microcosm to explore society and the way society can develop, the way it runs, and the way, if you're not careful, it can implode. It is a grander, bigger society on a city scale, or even wider, put into one building with a much smaller set of buildings, but it's extremely focused and extremely insular. And this enclosed environment is extremely interesting and really quite intriguing, because I've never read a book before that is so extremely focused in one small building. The characters will leave to go off to work outside the high-rise, then they'll come back. You yourself, through the eyes of the 3 main characters, never see outside the building. You know that they're on the edge of a bigger city. It sounds like it could be London, but you're never entirely sure. It could be Liverpool or another pretty significant city. Although considering the date, actually it probably is London, actually, considering it's written in 75. Oh, and a point to note is that this is not a global dystopian setting for the book, as is the current trend at the moment. The dystopian is just in the building, and it's just almost in the minds of the people that live in the high-rise. They create this internal dystopian environment for themselves because of their psychology and the way they think. So the greater world is perfectly normal and is indeed normal 1975 UK. Despite the year it's written in 75, this is still extremely valid and frankly still stands up perfectly good today. I mean, you wouldn't really be able to tell there's any difference between having written it 41 years ago or written it, last month. It wouldn't matter because it doesn't use any modern technology as such, uses phones, television, that kind of thing. So it doesn't show its age. As a result, though, it ages extremely well, and frankly I think this book will still be perfectly valid in another 41 years. Which to me is a good thing because overall I really enjoyed this book. It focuses on social structure, community, neighbourhoods. It does it in a really interesting and very unique way. It's very brutal and in your face at some points. So if you are not a fan of this kind of obvious violence, then this may not be the book for you. However, the violence is not for no reason. It is there to make a very particular point and to help the focus of the book. So the characters are being violent, but they're being violent because of this weird setting that they're in, the psychology of indeed themselves, but a social psychology, and indeed that is one of the things that Ballard calls, the social psychology of neighbourhoods and overall larger groups of people, but in a smaller building, extremely focused, extremely insular, and extremely well written. I would greatly recommend this to anybody who wants to read a book which is exploring society and these sort of issues and doesn't mind a book which has some pretty nasty events go on, frankly, because it could put you off in some ways, and frankly I don't blame people who would be put off by this because the violence could almost seem unnecessary to some people, and to be honest I could only just about manage it at some points. It did seem a bit extreme, frankly. So in summary, this is a very powerful, very well written book with some interesting ideas, a really unique and unusual setting, and overall I really did enjoy it, and I would definitely reread it in the future because there are probably some significant points and some significant ideas that Ballard is exploring that I almost definitely have missed this first time around. This is indeed my first ever time reading it, and it won't be my last because the points are fascinating simply, and I want to explore more. So that's it for my review of High Rise by J.G. Ballard. If you've read this, or if I've intrigued you enough to want to read it, then please leave a comment and we can have a discussion. As always, all my social media links can be found in the description box below, as they always are. And with that said, that is it for this video. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.